As the embattled hip-hop mogul, Sean Diddy Combs still reels from the fallout of his sexual misconduct allegations, plus the ongoing federal investigation. A new expose is shedding light onto the decades-long allegations of abuse toward women dating back to the late 80s, and how the once powerful figure masked his abusive behavior by appearing to be a lovable partying figure. The shocking report from Rolling Stone magazine detailed accounts from over 50 sources, many of which went unnamed out of fear of retaliation, still seemingly showing the power the music mogul still has in the Hollywood industry. Journalists with the publication spoke with several women who attended Howard University with Diddy during the late 80s. They say they saw signs then of his controlling and abusive personality. Diddy, who went by Puffy due to his temper when he was younger, attended the university in the fall of '87, even making a name for himself then for throwing legendary and rowdy parties. While former A&R exec for Universal Motown Record Group, Shantae Page, said she had a positive experience with Combs at the esteemed HBCU, but several other women didn't feel the same. One woman said she kept as far away as possible from the rapper and producer after he caressed her back without warning and asked if she'd be willing to meet one of his friends. Another woman said Combs flew off the handle after she said something to him about cutting a cafeteria line. One former student recalled Combs making unwelcome visits to his girlfriend's class in efforts to get her to ditch. She said Combs' then girlfriend, who went unnamed in the report, would visibly tense up when Combs appeared, saying that Combs had a weird control thing and felt his then girlfriend was fearful. But those feelings back then would unfortunately be true. According to Combs' classmate, Combs later appeared outside of one of the school's dorms and began belligerently screaming at his girlfriend, demanding her to come outside. She said when Puffy's then girlfriend met up with the soon-to-be music mogul, he attacked her, beating her using what appeared to be a belt, according to his former classmate. The classmate recalled his then girlfriend tried to defend herself but was crying as her classmates screamed at Combs to get off of her. According to Rolling Stone, the woman at the center of the alleged attack declined to comment. Combs would eventually leave Howard University after his sophomore year to pursue his career in the music industry. According to the publications, Combs at the time was pulling double duty by attending college and working part-time at Uptown Records in New York City. And it would be rapper Heavy D who helped secure a job interview after Combs reportedly badgered the rapper at a local pizza spot. So he dropped out to work at Uptown full-time, setting the stage for him eventually becoming the mentee of then CEO Andre Harrell. During Diddy's rise at Uptown, he reportedly helped the likes of Mary J. Blige and Jodeci go multi-platinum and helped advance their image. But as he was making a name for himself at the record company, his alleged predatory ways also began to unmask themselves, which would later come back to haunt him decades later. According to the sexual assault lawsuit filed by one of his accusers, Joy Dickerson Neal, in November of 2023, she acted opposite of Combs in a 1990 music video. While the two were filming the music video, she reportedly received what she considered to be a warning from Bronx rapper Sister Soulja to keep her distance from Combs because of his infamous reputation. But Dickerson Neal would later agree to a dinner date with Combs in January of '91, a date she reluctantly accepted. She alleges while on the date with Combs, he spiked her drink when she went to the restroom and later pressured her to taking a hit from his blunt. She says after her legs went rubbery. And a short time after, she alleges Combs raped her and filmed the attack, showing the video to others like a trophy. While Combs would later deny the allegations when the suit was filed in 2023, Dickerson Neal confided in Mike Nice Lewis, who worked at another record label at the time. According to Lewis, who was interviewed for the expose, Combs and Bad Boy came up in a conversation, and Lewis said Dickerson Neal's demeanor abruptly changed. Lewis claims Dickerson Neal told him she had a very bad sexual experience with Combs. Lewis said he believed Dickerson Neal's claims against the Bad Boy founder, and Dickerson Neal wouldn't be the only woman to later file a lawsuit against Combs, suing him for rape from that time period. Liza Gardner says she was 16 in 1990 when she and a friend met Combs and Uptown Records singer Aaron Hall. Gardner claims the two were very flirtatious and handsy, and fed the girls drinks and invited them to Hall's home for an after party. She says Combs offered her more alcohol at Hall's New Jersey home and forced her into sex despite her refusal. She said as she was trying to get dressed after the alleged assault, while she's still shocked and traumatized, Hall allegedly barged into the room, pinned her down, and raped her too. Gardner claims Combs became irate and later showed up to where she was staying and began choking her until she almost passed out. According to the suit, Combs feared the teenage girls would tell his girlfriend what he and Hall had done. After Gardner's suit, Combs denied the allegations, calling them a money grab, despite another woman who says she was with Gardner on the night of the alleged attack attack, corroborating many details of Gardner's suit in a sworn affidavit filed this year. His time at Uptown Records was slowly coming to an end when his legal controversies began. In 1991, Combs helped organize and promote a celebrity basketball game and concert at City College of New York with rapper Heavy D. The gym reportedly had a capacity of a little more than 2,700 people. However, nearly 5,000 people showed up and security couldn't control the crowd. When organizers closed the door and stopped letting attendees inside, people broke through the gym doors, rushing into the lobby, causing a stampede. 9 people were crushed to death at the bottom of the staircase and more than 20 others were injured. Then New York City Mayor David Dinkins' administration published a more than 60-page report citing Combs for hiring inadequate and inexperienced security. Combs settled a slew of lawsuits from family members of attendees who died and finalized the last lawsuit in 2000. According to the Exposé, due to the controversy from the deadly stampede, Combs' own mentor reportedly asked him to lay low. He helped produce Mary J. Blige's What's the 411 album. Then a year later, Combs founded Bad Boy Entertainment. Andre Harrell would later fire Combs from Uptown in July of '93, where Combs would take with him arguably his biggest signee to date, Christopher Wallace, aka the Notorious B.I.G. Over the years, Bad Boy would become the go-to label for upcoming hip-hop and R&B artists, where the likes of Faith Evans, Total, 112, and Biggie Smalls would call home. But despite the success Bad Boy had, Combs was still volatile. According to Bad Boy co-founder Kirk Burroughs, he told the publication he once saw Combs attack a woman inside Bad Boy's office in '94. Burroughs and another ex-Bad Boy employee told Rolling Stone they had to tear Combs off the woman after hearing screams and the sounds of shattering glass. And as Combs' temper was reportedly hard to calm down, his alleged sexual misconduct continued. According to April Lampros, who alleges Combs attacked her in a parking garage in the mid-90s and forced her to her knees to perform oral sex, it would be one of 4 horrific sexual assaults she says she endured during her on and off relationship with Combs. This time would also mark the rise of the East Coast-West Coast beef, which would later turn deadly with the deaths of Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. According to the Exposé, Combs was fond of Tupac, but it wasn't the same the other way around, as 90s photographer Monique Bunn said Tupac and even Notorious B.I.G. called Combs a corny executive. And while Tupac didn't bond with the then Puffy, he did bond with Biggie. But that budding friendship would end when Tupac was ambushed and shot 5 times at a recording studio in Times Square in '94. Tupac blamed Combs and the Bad Boy crew for setting him up, although Combs would deny those claims. After the Death Row rapper survived the attack, tensions rose to heightened levels between he and Biggie, more so Bad Boy. According to Rolling Stone, Notorious B.I.G. was encouraged to write certain songs despite the rapper not feeling so beefy with his former friend. But nevertheless, Combs released Biggie's Who Shot Ya single in '95, and while many believe the single was aimed at Tupac, Biggie was adamant it wasn't. But it didn't stop Tupac from responding with Hit 'Em Up. The two would go on to exchange blows toward one another as many played the two against one another in the East Coast-West Coast rivalry that reportedly excited Combs because of the constant promotion. After Tupac was gunned down in '96, the article states some Bad Boy employees received personal death threats. And Suge Knight, who was Diddy's West Coast counterpart who founded Death Row, pointed the finger at Combs for being responsible for Tupac's death. Diddy denied involvement in Tupac's death, and nearly 30 years after Tupac's death, Compton Crips gang member Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was charged last year for Tupac's murder. Davis claims Diddy offered him $1 million for a hit on Tupac. Diddy has denied Davis's claims, and Davis is set to go on trial in November. About 6 months after Tupac's death in March of '97, violence would arrive right to Bad Boy's doorsteps when Notorious B.I.G. was gunned down in what investigators believe to be an unsolved act of retaliation. According to the report, Biggie allegedly was preparing to leave Bad Boy before his death. But despite allegedly planning to leave the record label, it didn't stop Combs from capitalizing off Biggie's death by releasing his album, ominously named Life After Death. As the turn of the millennial approached, Combs was reportedly a dominant force. But while he was still toasting champagne with famous names, Combs' violence didn't end. In April of '99, he reportedly barged into the office of Interscope Records exec Steve Stout. Combs was reportedly furious Stout didn't cut him from a crucifixion scene in Nas's music video before sending it to MTV. Stout would recount the incident to the LA Times, saying Combs punched him in the face and then grabbed the phone and bashed him in the head with it. According to Rolling Stone, Combs privately settled with Stout for $500,000 and avoided a 7-year prison sentence by pleading to a reduced charge of harassment. And a few months after that incident, Combs was arrested after a New York City nightclub shooting which injured 3 people. Combs was charged with weapons possession and attempted bribery after he and then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez fled the shooting, then reportedly ran nearly a dozen red lights before finally being pulled over by police. The prosecutor claimed Combs offered cash to witnesses after some said Combs was the shooter. One of the victims, Natanya Rubin, has been adamant that Combs fired the bullet that hit her in the face. Combs' own driver would testify that Combs offered him $50,000. He would say he was the owner of the unlicensed gun found in the SUV. Many have claimed Combs paid as much as $1 million to Jamal Barrow, aka Shine, to buy his silence, which Shine has since denied. Diddy's then protege Shine would later be convicted of firing off the rounds and sentenced to a decade in prison, while Combs was acquitted. The report would also cite different instances where the music mogul would flaunt his sexual encounters even if his underage artists were around to see. A teenage usher briefly lived with Combs, and in 2004 told the Rolling Stone, "There was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it, or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was going to happen." Casey Sheridan, who was signed to Diddy's girl group Dream, recalled a time she had a meeting with Combs at a Beverly Hills hotel bungalow when she was 15 years old, and Diddy emerged from a nearby room in a bathrobe. Combs' sexual impulses wouldn't end there. In February of 2003, model Crystal McKinney says she met Diddy during a Fashion Week event. According to McKinney's lawsuit, hours later, Combs says she was acting too uptight and pressured her to take a hit from a laced joint. She claims the rapper and producer forced her to perform oral sex on him despite her resistance. She says the alleged incident sent her into a tailspin of anxiety and depression that she says resulted in a suicide attempt. Not long after McKinney's alleged assault would Combs later be accused of gang raping a minor. In 2003, a then 17-year-old girl says she was out with friends at a Detroit area lounge when a man in a suit approached and allegedly introduced himself as Combs' best friend. The man was alleged to be former Bad Boy president Harve Pierre, who called Combs on the phone and let the girl speak with the producer directly. Pierre allegedly convinced the girl to board a private jet and take a 2-hour flight to New Jersey to meet Combs in person. The girl, who identified herself using the moniker Jane Doe in a lawsuit filed last year, says at the time she was a high school junior and was awestruck by the opportunity to meet the mogul. Jane Doe claims Combs, Pierre, and a third unidentified man gave her drugs and alcohol until she was nearly unconscious and unable to consent. According to the suit, as she was beginning to black out, Combs led her to a bathroom where he removed her skirt and underwear and penetrated her from behind. She says as she was drifting in and out, the unidentified man replaced Combs and raped her as Combs watched. She alleges she was also raped by Pierre. She says when the men were finished, she fell into a fetal position on the floor in excruciating pain and was later escorted out of the building and flown back to Michigan. Combs would also deny these allegations, same as Pierre, who called the accusation fiction and a desperate attempt for financial gain. The report then delved into Combs' relationship with his longtime partner Kim Porter, who Combs would later call the love of his life. But according to sources, Combs physically abused her. Combs and Porter first got together in '94 and dated on and off until 2007. During that time, they had 3 children together, but Porter cut off things for good when Combs fathered a child while she was pregnant with their twin daughters. But according to the report, Combs never let Porter move on, as one source called him intrusive for calling her 50 to 60 times a day. In 2000, Porter reportedly was beginning a romance with music executive Shakir Stewart that reportedly enraged Combs. According to the report, when the music industry gathered for L.A. Reid's wedding ceremony in Italy that summer, Combs went over to Stewart's room after the ceremony and allegedly broke a chair over his head. Stewart's mom and 2 of his close friends told Rolling Stone the incident left him bleeding on a hotel floor in Italy. He had to have stitches, and Combs allegedly threatened to kill him. Despite Combs being reportedly territorial of the women in his life, the report also cites several instances where Combs and other Bad Boy executives allegedly expected sexual favors from female artists in exchange for professional attention, including former Danity Kane member Aubrey O'Day, who previously said she was kicked out of the group because she wasn't willing to do certain things. But there was one former artist who dated the music mogul that would arguably set the stage for the floodgates to open against the once feared but still celebrated hitmaker. Actress and singer Cassie Ventura filed her jaw-dropping lawsuit against her former boyfriend in November of 2023. According to her suit, Cassie claimed Combs trapped her in a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking. One of the brutal beatings was captured in shocking hotel surveillance video obtained by CNN. The incident left her with bruises, burst lips, black eyes, and extensive trauma. And due to Diddy's money and power, he reportedly bought off the footage for $50,000 and hopes to keep his true colors behind closed doors hidden forever. The music mogul would later issue an apology for the brutal assault years later in 2024 when the video was made public.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. I had to ask God for His mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
But that would just be one glimpse into Cassie's then life with Diddy, who she was also signed to at the time. According to the suit, drugs were a consistent part of Combs' life. She alleges in her lawsuit Diddy was addicted to prescription painkillers and took ecstasy frequently. She claims he had pills and drugs out in the open like candy, and he would supply alcohol, ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, and marijuana during his freak-offs or orgies. She alleged Diddy made her participate in the freak-offs where she was forced to have sex with male sex workers while he watched and pleasured himself. Cassie and Diddy would settle the suit for an undisclosed amount just a day after it was filed in federal court. After Cassie's suit, he was sued by a slew of other people for his alleged past transgressions, which also included music producer Rodney Jones Jr., aka Little Rod, who sued the mogul in 2024, where Jones alleged Combs groped his genitals and forced him to solicit sex workers and perform sex acts to pleasure Diddy. After the mounting legal pressures, Diddy's business ventures also took a hit as many businesses have cut ties or distanced themselves from the mogul. Then in late March of this year, federal agents descended upon his Miami and Los Angeles homes as a part of a federal sex trafficking investigation. At the time of the raids, through his attorneys, Diddy denied all wrongdoing as his team called the raids a gross overuse of military-level force. Since then, the feds have remained tight-lipped. However, it's been reported a federal grand jury may soon hear from Diddy's accusers. And while the raids shocked many and left many of Diddy's Hollywood friends fairly silent about the raids, it might seemingly signal the beginning of the end of the once flamboyant music mogul, as many seemingly are looking for Combs to face accountability for his alleged abuse that spanned decades. Diddy, through his lawyers, have denied all claims against him. Most recently, his lawyers filed a motion to dismiss some of the claims in Joy Dickerson-Neal's complaint, as his team called the accusations purely a money grab. Their motion to dismiss at this time is still pending. Reporting for Law&Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.